On our wedding day, just as we were about to exchange rings, Marcus suddenly interrupted the ceremony and pulled his Ivy onto the stage. Grace, Ivy has a terminal illness. How can I possibly marry you when I've watched her grow up like a little sister? Marcus shoved an equity transfer agreement straight into my hand. Sign this agreement and give Ivy $10 billion for her medical expenses. From this day forward, I promise to be a devoted husband and never be involved with another woman. His expression was solemn and earnest, while Ivy, in her white dress, watched me warily from behind him. I lowered my gaze, my fingertips subtly tightening, and took a deep breath. If I don't sign this today, will this wedding not go forward? Hearing this, Marcus's eyes darkened, and he softened his tone. It's just $10 billion. The family isn't poor. If you think of it as a buyout for our relationship, it works. I scoffed, my grip loosening, and the agreement slipped to the floor. Fine, I'll sign it. Of course, I'll sign it. Marcus visibly relaxed, then sincerely and affectionately clasped Ivy's hand right in front of me. Don't worry, Ivy. I'm here. I'll never let anything happen to you for as long as I live. At our wedding, my fiancé was demanding $10 billion as a buyout for our relationship, all for another woman. Immediately, eyes filled with scorn and pity fell upon me. My throat tightened. After comforting Ivy, Marcus turned back to urge me to sign. Seeing the undisguised greed in Marcus's eyes, I sneered, fine. I can give her $10 billion, but the Sterling family's money isn't that easy to take. I slowly walked up to Ivy and delivered a resounding slap. You want money, do you? $10,000 a slap. I'll keep slapping until I've delivered $10 billion worth, and then you'll get it. Marcus was aghast and quickly shielded Ivy. He glared at me fiercely, his voice laced with anger. Grace, are you deliberately trying to Iliad Ivy? She's sick. How dare you hit her? Ivy, hiding in Marcus's arms, was crying, tears streaming down her face. Never mind, Marcus. My life isn't as precious as Grace's, and no one will care if I die. I nodded, a soft laugh escaping me. Indeed, it's a worthless life. Ivy cried even harder, and Marcus, clearly heartbroken for her, roared at me, Grace, that's Ivy's life-saving money. How can you be so stingy? What's $10 billion to you? Besides, this is the buyout for our relationship that you're giving me. You have to pay it all at once. His self-righteous demeanor struck me as utterly absurd. Marcus was the son of our family driver, chosen by my father to be my bodyguard. During a major kidnapping, Marcus saved me but was tortured by the kidnappers to the brink of death. From then on, I stopped seeing him as just a bodyguard. To get my parents' approval for our marriage, I gave the Hayes family financial power and ensured he became a major shareholder in the company. But now, for another woman, he shamelessly stretched out his hand and asked me for $10 billion. Alright, Ivy is generous and won't hold it against you. Just sign the papers quickly. Once we're married, I'll make Sterling earn countless hundreds of billions. I rubbed my ears and couldn't help but laugh. Marcus, with you? The sarcasm in my words was unmistakable. Marcus, enraged, grabbed my wrist and loudly demanded, Grace, what is that supposed to mean? My sister, standing nearby, couldn't hold back a cold sneer. What else could my sister mean? Who do you think you are, to be so arrogant in front of her? She shot a harsh glare at everyone present, then turned to me, advising, Grace, the family is vast and influential, and we've never allowed anyone to humiliate us. We can't afford this humiliation. Let's go. Marcus violently shoved Chloe, who was blocking me, and snarled, Who do you think you are? I'm talking to your sister. Where do you get off interruptin'? Gee? Get out of my way. Seeing fall to the ground in pain, I lost my temper and roared, Marcus, who gave you the guts to touch my sister? No sooner had I spoken than the Sterling family's bodyguards rushed in, surrounding Marcus. I gritted my teeth, pointing at him with fury. Hit him hard. The family is not to be trifled with. At my command, the bodyguards kicked and punched Marcus, landing brutal blows. But, despite being clearly afraid of pain, still endured it all to protect Ivy. Grace, you're crazy. You're doing this to me for an outsider. He was furious, gritting his teeth and yelling. I lifted my gaze, my voice dripping with cold mockery. An outsider? That's my own sister, Chloe. Under his astonished gaze, I had the bodyguards kick them both out the door. Grace, you dare to disrespect me like this today, you'd better not come crawling back to beg me to marry you later. Marcus's enraged curses echoed from outside. I scoffed softly and calmly dialed a number. Within 3 days, I want the Hayes family to lose everything. Upon hearing the news, Mr. William and Mrs. Eleanor frantically dragged Marcus to my door to apologize. Grace, Marcus must have been tricked by that woman. Don't worry. He knows he made a mistake. Please, can't you give him another chance? I cast a dismissive glance at Marcus, whose eyes were filled with resentment, and said with a light laugh, tricked? Is a 3-year-old or brain damaged? Enough. I'm too tired to argue with you. First, my engagement with Marcus is off. Second, the $300 billion I invested, I want it back, principal and interest, within 1 hour. Mr. William and Mrs. Eleanor's faces turned pale, and they immediately fell to their knees, begging for mercy. Grace, we failed in raising our son, which is why he made such a mistake. Here, both of us old folks will kowtow and apologize to you on his behalf. Marcus watched his parents groveling and could no longer bear it. Grace, my parents are gang you like this. Why do you still have that condescending manner? I advise you not to keep pushing your luck, or we really won't get married. He didn't even finish his sentence before Mr. Williams suddenly slapped him. You ungrateful son. How dare you speak to Grace like that? Mr. Williams said this while nervously watching my expression. I couldn't be bothered to watch their performance and simply had someone escort them out. Mr. William and Mrs. Eleanor left, but Marcus remained outside my door, yelling, since you've already vented your anger in front of my parents, can you forgive me now? Don't forget, you were the one begging to marry me. While I still have some patience, hurry up and apologize to me and my parents. Apologize? Marcus's shamelessness almost made me laugh out of anger. I kicked open the front door and immediately slapped him. Get this straight, you're the one begging me to let the Hayes family go, not me begging you to marry me. Marcus's face was marked with a red welt, his eyes filled with such rage it seemed he wanted to tear me in two. Grace, how have you become so unreasonable now? You used to be so sensible. He lunged at me like a madman. But before he could get close, a bodyguard kicked him in the chest. He suddenly vomited a large mouthful of blood and rolled several times on the ground. Marcus! Ivy quickly rushed out to shield Marcus, crying out to me, Sister, how could you be so heavy-handed? Don't blame Marcus, he loves you. It's all my fault for being sick. I'd rather not get treatment. She hadn't finished speaking when Marcus's expression softened. It's not your fault, Ivy, it's Grace who's abusing her power. Watching their gazes, still hung up on each other and unable to part, I felt a wave of nausea. It seems the weather is still too hot. How about we send you two to the cold storage facility to cool down? The bodyguards dragged the two of them towards the cold storage facility. At -40°C. The biting wind was like sharp knives. Ivy shivered uncontrollably, her face deathly pale, as she crawled towards me, sobbing and using her hands and feet. Sister, I don't have many days left anyway. If you want to vent your anger, take it out on me. Don't hurt Marcus. Marcus pulled her into his arms, his eyes filled with hatred for me. Ivy, you don't have to do this. We'll see how long she can keep up this tough act. No sooner had he spoken than a swarm of reporters and media outlets rushed in, surrounding the cold storage facility. Seeing me, they eagerly raised their cameras and questioned, Ms. Grace, how can you disregard the law and administer private torture? What exactly did this star-crossed couple do to deserve such cruel treatment from you? Please answer our questions directly. The sudden arrival of the media caught me off guard. But seeing the flicker of triumph in Ivy's eyes, what was there not to understand? Ivy suddenly coughed up large mouthfuls of blood, looking as if she were about to die. Sister, my life is a worthless life. If I die, I die. If my death can make you relent and spare the Hayes family, spare Marcus, then my death is not to be regretted. With that, her eyes welled up with tears, and she bit down hard. The next second, she violently slammed her head against the wall. Blood immediately gushed from her forehead, and she lay on the ground, wailing in agony. Marcus's eyes were bloodshot, as if they would bleed. He roared furiously, Grace, you're abusing your power. If anything happens to Ivy, I will never forgive you in this lifetime. Watching the indignant media, eager to rush forward and uphold justice, I laughed even more wildly. Ivy, do you think I'll be scared just because you found some reporters to create public opinion? I scoffed, then pointed and instructed the bodyguards, go, lower the temperature to -70°. I want to see how long Marcus can keep up his tough talk. Hearing this, Marcus's hatef. All gaze was fixed on me. Grace, whatever you have, take it out on me. Looking at his hate-filled eyes, I suddenly didn't want to play this game anymore. I watched the enraged Marcus with a composed expression. Alright, since you love playing the hero so much, I'll give you this chance. There's a bucket of cold water over there. Pour it over yourself and let me witness a human ice sculpture. Open my eyes. Hearing my words, the color drained from Marcus's face. Seeing him like this, my mood became even more pleasant. The cold storage facility at -40 degrees was already enough to make him suffer. If that bucket of cold water were poured over him, whether Marcus could survive was still unknown. I looked at him, amused, waiting for him to make his choice. Marcus's eyes filled with a dark resolve, his knuckles clenched tight. After a long while, as if having made up his mind, he said, "All right. I'll pour it." Ivy was so frozen she couldn't utter a complete sentence, yet she still desperately tried to stop Marcus. A sharp scream tore through the air. Hiss, ah. The iron bucket crashed to the ground as Marcus truly poured all the ice water over himself. He writhed on the ground, his body turning blue from the cold, the water on him instantly freezing. He stared at me, his eyes blazing with towering rage. "Now, can you let Ivy go?" A sudden pang tightened in my chest. I hadn't expected him to truly be willing to die for Ivy. Although I had long known Marcus loved Ivy deeply, at this moment, the bitterness in my heart was unbearable. I laughed, tears welling in my eyes. "But, I never said I would let her go, did I?" As I burst into laughter, Marcus's eyes widened, and towering rage erupted within them. "Grace, you played me." I cast a light glance at him, then swept my gaze across the dumbfounded crowd. "Do you understand now? This is what abusing power looks like. For does anyone else have questions? Come on, I'll answer them one by one." Instantly, the cold storage facility fell silent. The reporters and media turned ashen, their legs giving way as they collapsed to the ground. No more questions. I looked at Marcus, who had fainted from the cold on the ground, and had the bodyguards throw them both out. "In that case, I don't need to tell you what can and cannot appear in tomorrow's headlines, do I?" They nodded in agreement, looking as if facing a formidable enemy, and scurried out. The next morning, exclusive media news rocketed to the top of the trending searches. #breaking. Hayes's reversal, cheating, extortion, ungrateful, all. #humiliating photos of Marcus and Ivy were plastered everywhere. Even the entire Hayes family suffered, with people throwing rotten produce at them wherever they went. I dismissed it with a laugh and went to the equestrian center with friends to relax. But just as I was riding, the horse beneath me suddenly went wild, violently throwing me off. My back slammed onto the grass, and searing pain exploded throughout my limbs. The next second, before I could recover from the dizziness, the pounding hooves of a horse thundered in my ears. With a resounding thump, the horse's hooves heavily trampled my stomach, as if to shatter my internal organs. Next, countless hooves stomped over my face and body. I was in agonizing pain, but I couldn't scream. Resisting the convulsive tremors, I fumbled for my phone to dial emergency services. Suddenly, a leather shoe brutally stomped on my fingers. "Ah!" I cried out in pain and then suddenly saw Marcus and Ivy looking down at me with contempt. In that moment, it was like a chilling realization, my heart turned to ice. "Marcus, are you retaliating against me? The family won't let you get away with this." Marcus, however, was enraged. "Do you think bringing up the Sterling family still works? You've made me suffer so horribly, how could I possibly let you go?" His eyes bloodshot, he violently yanked me up from the ground. "Grace, I will make you rep. I 100-fold the humiliation I've endured." The next second, he bound my limbs with ropes. The other ends were tied to the hind legs of 4 horses. Immediately, my heart tightened, a knife-like pain piercing through me. The family wields immense power in Viridian City. How dared he try to kill me? Did he have a death wish? "Marcus, if you touch me, I will make your life a living hell." Ivy chuckled, tugging on Marcus's clothes with disdain. "Marcus, sister's words scare me so much." The next second, his heavy palm struck my face, with such force that half my face went numb. "You're on the verge of death, yet still so stubborn. Don't worry, you won't have that day." Suddenly, Marcus's laughter turned mocking, his vulgar gaze sweeping over my chest, which rose and fell with my agitated breaths. "Grace, you made the Hayes family infamous online. Would it be too easy to let you just die? How about this? I'll set up a global live stream and let everyone see how the heiress of the richest family gets ridden by thousands of men." Hatred surged like a tide. I wished I could kill them directly. I bit my teeth tightly, suppressing the bloody foam in my mouth. "Marcus, if anything happens to me, your Hayes family will be utterly destroyed. Whether you live or die isn't up to you. Do you think I'd dare provoke you without any backing? What's your Sterling family worth? Anyway, that influential figure will take care of everything for me." My heart clenched. An influential figure greater than the Sterling family? Could it be? My fists clenched tightly. I saw the pure exhilaration in Marcus's eyes as he gestured behind him. Don't worry, I'll make sure you're comfortable before I send you to your death. You'll be a beautiful ghost even in the underworld. Suddenly, a group of homeless men appeared from nowhere. Their filthy hands immediately climbed onto my body. They tore open my outer clothing, exposing my naked body to view. The agonizing pain and the trampling of my personal dignity. My hatred erupted like a volcano, rushing to my head. Get away. Dare to touch me, and I'll chop off your hands. Marcus smiled indifferently, aiming his camera at my body. Now, say hello to a global livestream audience. But just as the group of homeless men were about to pull down their pants, whirring, the roar of helicopters filled the sky, and a group of Sterling family bodyguards jumped down from above. Helped to my feet by a bodyguard, my eyes burned crimson, and the towering hatred escaped my clenched teeth, word by word. Marcus, do you remember what I just said? 5. The armed forces quickly surrounded the equestrian center, and Marcus and Ivy's arrogant expressions instantly froze. They stood far away, watching helplessly as the homeless men were shot dead one by one. When did you call them? Tell them to get out, do you hear me? My body was weak with pain. I looked up, cold sweat tracing paths down my forehead. Marcus, want to kill me? No way. Marcus roared but showed fear, his eyes bloodshot. Grace, you ruined our family and left us on the streets. Today, no matter what, I'll make you pay the price. He glared at me menacingly, quickly tying the ropes to the horses. He meant to tear me apart. I bit my teeth tightly, towering hatred churning in my eyes. You've already lost. Put down your weapon, it might reduce your sentence. What kind of ridiculous sentence? I don't care. As he spoke, the armed forces had already closed in on them, dark muzzles aimed at Marcus's head. Seeing this, Ivy immediately froze in terror, shaking Marcus's arm desperately. Marcus, let go. We're surrounded. Even if we kill Grace, we won't get out of here alive. Ivy's face was pale, trying to calm Marcus, but he gripped me even tighter, his nails digging into my flesh. Let's just die together. Marcus threatened, trembling, the atmosphere tense. His eyes held a hint of madness. Under the intense emotion, blood began to seep from his broken fingers. It made him appear sinister and eerie. Marcus quickly secured the ropes, and the horses were poised, ready to bolt at any moment. A dull ache still lingered in my chest, the severe pain bringing tears to my eyes. In a daze, I seemed to fall into a memory. It was like a fleeting review of my life, a sequence of images flashing before my eyes. From our first meeting to his current, ferocious, expression. Before, I never thought I would entrust my heart to a stranger. Until I met Marcus. He was genuinely kind to me back then. Marcus grew up in our house, and the hardship of being dependent on others always made him cold and distant. I never looked down on his humble origins, because I never saw him as an outsider in my home. Not only that, I always took care of him. At first, I only saw him as a friend who could keep me company. Until one time, I had a conflict with some classmates. That night, she actually called a group of people to beat me up. I was forced into an alley, with nowhere to retreat. Looking at their twisted smiles and vulgar expressions, I felt certain that I was completely finished today. Uncle, the driver, had taken the day off. This was the one time I walked home alone and they ambushed me. I was about to discreetly pull out my phone to call for help when the ringleader suddenly grabbed it and slammed me against the wall. Still trying to call the police? Bah. You just rely on your family's money, acting like you're abusing your power? Let me tell you, I'm not afraid of you. I want to see what the rich heiress tastes like. His rough hand caressed my waist, making me tremble with panic. I'm telling you, if any of you dare to touch me, I will never let you off. My mosquito-like threat was like a futile attempt in his eyes, utterly insignificant. With that, the group came forward and tore at my clothes, exposing my exposed skin around my neckline to their view. My heart tightened, and a surge of despair erupted within me. Just at that critical moment, Marcus, like a black lightning bolt, suddenly burst into the alley. He was like a beam of light in my life, suddenly breaking through the fog and stepping in. He stood in front of me, his brow stern. Get out. Do you hear me? I'm not going to say it a second time. His eyes were full of anger and determination, like a furious lion. Perhaps it was then that I completely fell for him. Perhaps it was the thrill of danger made my heart pound for him. The person who appears in times of crisis always makes my heart pound inexplicably. Those people, relying on their numbers, didn't put him in their eyes at all. Oh, look who it is, a pretty boy trying to play hero. 6 Marcus sneered, then rushed forward, landing brutal blows. If you dare to touch her, you're disrespecting me. Marcus's voice was low and vicious. His principle of not giving up until he achieved his goal might have begun right then. The gang was clearly surprised by how good Marcus was at fighting. He dared to take on 5 of them by himself and wasn't losing. In an instant, they were all knocked to the ground. Marcus rubbed his aching knuckles and walked towards me. Grace, thankfully, watch out. My sharp scream rang out. He turned abruptly, but unexpectedly, a small knife plunged into his abdomen. I stared at him, stunned, and spoke with a trembling voice. Marcus. His eyes immediately filled with towering rage, and he kicked the assailant away. After kicking, his body swayed inadvertently. I gritted my teeth, guilt and heartbreak filling my chest. Grabbing his hand, I suddenly ran towards the alley entrance. My steps were light, running towards our hope. No one dared to stop us. Marcus squeezed my hand back. I could feel his palm was hot, and slightly trembling. Holding hands, we ran into the sunset. From that moment on, Marcus's image in my mind was completely different. He was no longer the little boy I needed to take care of, but my protector. The moment he appeared, I felt incredibly safe. I started to depend on him, even developing deeper feelings for him. But I don't know when, the purest kind of emotion between us changed. Perhaps it started when his Ivy, who had returned from abroad to seek him out, found him. They had lived together as children, and their bond remained strong. Even when Ivy went abroad, their bond remained strong. As time passed, my father's appreciation for him grew daily. He entrusted both the company and me to Marcus. It was at this point that Marcus's heart seemed to change. He became increasingly ambitious, no longer satisfied with the status quo. He used decisive actions to quickly bring those of the old guard and the company to heel. I couldn't deny that perhaps he would lead Sterling to new heights if he took over. But his feelings for me had changed. Because I had always put him on a pedestal. In his eyes, I was an annoying hanger-on who constantly clung to him, unshakable, and holding him back. His favoritism for Ivy grew more and more pronounced, reaching an overt level. He cared less and less about my opinions. After all, in his eyes, the company and its shares were his to command. I had warned him once, telling him to send Ivy away early, but had already fallen too deep, unable to pull himself out. He had even, subtly, fallen for someone else. He began to criticize me for being overly jealous, and coupled with Ivy's terminal illness, his protective feelings deepened even further. And today, he even wanted to treat me in such a cruel way. This left my heart shattered. The warmth of the memories contrasted sharply with the harsh reality. I had once naively believed that our relationship would be like a fairy tale, with a happy ending. Instead, reality was a nightmare. The person I once loved so much had now become my most terrifying enemy. This only solidified my conviction that my decision back then was the right one. Marcus, this ungrateful wretch, simply didn't deserve it. Those past memories slowly blur. The reality before me was Marcus's crazed eyes and the horses ready to bolt. Hatred surged like a tide. I secretly swore in my heart. As long as I lived another day, I would never forgive him. Marcus, are you really going to kill me for revenge? I used my last ounce of strength, my voice weak but firm. He didn't answer, only clenched his jaw. Then, seeing a hint of tears in my eyes, he paused for a moment. Perhaps, deep down, there was still a trace of lingering sentiment for the past. Why had we come to this point? 7 The commander of the armed forces saw this and shouted, "Put down your weapon, this is your last chance." Marcus's hand trembled slightly. He looked around, the despair of being surrounded something he couldn't accept. His former pride and confidence completely collapsed at this moment. "I won't let you succeed," Marcus roared, preparing to spur the horses forward. Just at this critical moment, Ivy suddenly broke down and ran towards the armed forces. She turned around and yelled, "Don't shoot. We surrender." Marcus froze in place, instinctively roaring, "Ivy, come back." The horses became agitated by Ivy's sudden movement. Immediately, my limbs felt as if my soul was being torn in half. The pain was excruciating. Marcus clearly hadn't expected Ivy to betray him at this moment. Now he was isolated and helpless, with a sniper aiming at his face. There was no way he could easily escape. Marcus's eyes were sinister as he lightly caressed my cheek. "Grace, if you had just obediently given me the $10 billion from the start, none of this would have happened between us. Why do you always have to go against me?" Marcus's eyes revealed a resolute determination, and he suddenly slapped the horse. Just as he exerted force, a gunshot suddenly ripped through the air. Ugh! Marcus's wrist exploded in a spray of blood, his hand, which hadn't even touched the horse's rump, was blown to a bloody mess. He staggered, his eyes filled with terror, and immediately realized his current predicament. He couldn't rely on the horses to tear me apart anymore. Now he was cornered, yet he erupted with frightening strength like a cornered beast. His intact arm instantly locked around my throat. The feeling of suffocation made me gasp for air, my face turning purplish blue. "Step back. All of you, step back. Otherwise, I'll twist her neck right now," he roared, warm blood dripping onto my neck, my body trembling violently from the intense pain and madness. "Let me go, or I'll kill her." He dragged me, retreating step by step towards the edge of the equestrian center, his eyes filled with absolute despair and a desire for destruction. I had watched him for so long, understanding that he was merely making a final struggle, cornered and desperate. Hearing his words, I couldn't help but sneer instinctively. "Marcus, you have no way out." The next second, I abruptly issued a sharp command. "Open fire." Those people understood the subtext of my words, and gunfire erupted. Marcus's pupils widened. He clearly couldn't believe I dared to order them to shoot, even though I was still in his arms. In fact, I knew he didn't dare to die, so I couldn't gamble. If I shot myself carelessly, Marcus would panic. So he instinctively ran backward, and at that moment, bullets whizzed and lodged into Marcus's limbs. He was in excruciating pain and fell to the ground again. He watched in horror as his legs became immobile, blood gushing out. He instantly fainted. When he woke up again, he saw the flickering fluorescent lights of a hospital. Marcus immediately became terrified, looking around. His legs were wrapped in thick bandages, but he had no sensation at all. They must have been completely crippled. He gritted his teeth and roared, "Grace! Where are you? Come out." However, the next second, the door opened. Several doctors walked in from outside, exchanging glances. "The patient is awake, but his emotions are still a bit agitated. Proceed with electroshock therapy." Marcus's pupils constricted violently, and he instinctively struggled. A few guttural roars escaped his throat. "What are you doing? Why are you doing this? Get out." The leading doctor pushed up his glasses, his gaze calm to the point of coldness. "Execute electroshock." The next second, an indescribable agony violently gripped him. He went limp, as if all his bones had been removed. Then, he saw the doctor pick up the electroshock device again. No, his voice was so hoarse it was almost inaudible. With a trembling plea he himself barely recognized, "Please. I'll cooperate," but his words were cut short. A new, more intense wave of current once again coursed through him. Is making you do this?" No one answered him, only a relentless cycle of torture. When was electrocuted into unconsciousness and woke up again that night, he discovered. This was a psychiatric hospital. Marcus was consumed by extreme fear. He knew Grace would never let him go. But now his body was crippled, and he couldn't run even if he wanted to. And so, Marcus endured electroshock therapy 3 times a day here. He went from initial resentment to being resigned to his fate. His former hatred and resentment towards Grace were also weakened by the repeated electroshocks. Now, all he thought about was how to escape, and his concern for Ivy. Despite betraying him and suddenly switched sides back then, Marcus still couldn't forget her. He thought of Ivy day and night. Until this day, after another electroshock session, his limbs lay limp on the bed when the door opened. Mr. William and Mrs. Eleanor walked in, their eyes reddening immediately. They rushed to the person on the bed. "My son, how did you become like this?" Marcus on the hospital bed was unshaven, his cheeks haggard from malnutrition. The pain and suffering had aged him 10 years overnight. The of today completely lacked his former youthful vigor. Mr. William and Mrs. Eleanor were weeping profusely. "Marcus, you've suffered." Marcus's cloudy pupils regained a trace of clarity, and he spoke in a parched voice. "Dad, Mom, Grace has people torture me like this every day. Did she also not spare the Hayes family?" However, after hearing this, a hint of melancholy rose on his parents' faces. "Marcus, she only kicked us out. She didn't do anything else to us." A sliver of hope appeared in Marcus's eyes as he continued to speak to himself. "That's good. Don't worry, Dad and Mom. When I get out, I'll definitely lead the Hayes family back to its place among the new elite of Viridian City." However, hearing these words, his parents' tears flowed uncontrollably. "Marcus, you can't get out, and you can't leave. You made such a terrible mistake. Ms. Grace sparing your life is already showing mercy. Don't worry, Marcus, even if you're stuck here forever, Mom and Dad will visit you often." Their words instantly made Marcus's mind go blank. Only those few words echoed in his head. "Can't get out. stuck here forever. 9. If he had to endure such retaliation every day for the rest of his life, he would go mad, he would have a mental breakdown. Just then, Marcus seemed to remember something and looked behind his parents. Where's Ivy? Why hasn't she come to see me? As he uttered that name, Mrs. Eleanor's face filled with resentment. That woman is no good. You've supported her for so many years, and I know you two were childhood sweethearts. We even thought that if you couldn't get out, we'd still raise her like a daughter. But who could have imagined she would just run off, taking the last of our family's money and running away with another man? Mrs. Eleanor was sobbing uncontrollably, gasping for breath. It's tragic. That was the last of our family's funds. From now on, the family is completely finished. Hearing this, Marcus felt as if he'd been doused with ice water. His blood instantly froze in his veins. How could this be? How could Ivy do such a thing? His eyes were filled with disbelief. Just then, their visiting time was up, and Marcus's parents were immediately escorted out. Marcus's hope crumbled, and the longing for Ivy in his eyes shattered too. Under daily torment, he finally went completely insane. He redirected his hatred for Grace onto Ivy. One day, taking advantage of a lax shift change among the doctors, he managed to escape. After tracking Ivy for days, he discovered she was indeed still hung up on another man. And that man was one of his former subordinates. The two of them were inseparable, and clearly had been for some time. He hid outside, listening to the conversation drifting from inside the room. Ivy, you're really something, turning on a dime like that. Haven't you seen the family has been pursuing you relentlessly, and they hate your guts? The woman's voice was soft and delicate, full of nonchalance. So what? Look at what the family has become now. Do you think I'm that foolish? Why would I go back to rummage through trash with those two old people? The man's deep voice chuckled. Aren't you afraid Marcus will come out and get revenge on you? Revenge for what? He'll never get out, anyway, and I have plenty of time. She spoke with full vigor, her voice still the same, but her demeanor was completely different. Gone was her former fragile facade. Marcus's fists clenched tight, consumed by towering rage. So she had been deceiving him all along. At this, he could no longer control his hatred. He burst in and stabbed both of them to death. Before the police arrived, he leapt from the building. When I heard about this again, I had already started a new life and found new love. This time, I wouldn't blindly trust men anymore. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments section. Feel free to share your opinions, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.